Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of BTTH Rebirth of Emperor Yang episode number 34 based on novel. So let's start. At the top of a mountain peak, Xiao Yan sat cross-legged. His breath had reached the peak. When his palm turned over, Kaiyang crystal appeared in Xiao Yang's palm out of thin air. A smile appeared at the corners of his mouth, and Xiao Yang's heart moved. At the center of his eyebrows, the terrible soul force gushed out like an ocean tide and quickly condensed into an embodiment in front of Xiao Yang. Looking at the avatar in front of him, Xiao Yang also felt a little sigh, but even turned into a faint smile, waved his big sleeve and shot the red inflammatory crystal in his hand into Hua's body. Xiao Yang gently shook his head and threw the thoughts in his mind out of the body. The different fire in his body converged from the pores of Xiao Yang's body, turned into a colorful hot dragon and soared in the sky. After twice engraving Yangjing, Xiao Yang has a new method for its engraving means. With the power of soul and the power of different fire, the two are integrated, and the engraving will be twice the result with half the effort. Therefore, Xiao Yang was not worried about the third engraving process. Just before preparation, Xiao Yang turned his eyes back to the direction he had always been. After looking at it for a few times, he turned back again. When the mind moves, the soul power of terror is also rapidly condensed. In an instant, it turns into an invisible dragon like the Yang dragon, occupying one side of the sky with the Yang dragon. Then the next moment, the Yang dragon and the invisible dragon flew up into the sky together, chased each other, and quickly integrated into each other. When he flew down, he looked like a real vacuum. Under the influence of the dragon blood in Xiao Yang's body, I'm afraid that there are people of the dragon family here at the moment. He will not hesitate to think that this giant dragon is a member of the dragon family. The dragon was frozen. Xiao Yang's mind turned again. The dragon also roared up to the sky, and then made a sudden move. It collided with the avatar fiercely. Looking at the posture, it seemed to break the avatar. Its power was amazing. Chong. A powerful collision sound suddenly came from the place where the dragon collided with one person. The dragon's body condensed by different fire scratched hard on the avatar. The surrounding space collapses in an instant at the place where it passes, and at the place where it collides, a large amount of magma drops from the high altitude like a hard scraped dragon scale, making the mountains and forests hundreds of miles below turn into a lava hell in a moment. And the avatar was forcibly blasted out by this powerful force within a few breaths after colliding with the Yang dragon. Although this incarnation contains the advantages of Xiao Yang in all aspects, only the incarnation of Dozong's strength is unbearable under the terrible collision of Yang Long. After the bang, the avatar was blown away by the hot dragon and smashed into the lava hell below. The avatar was hit hard by this. Naturally, Xiao Yang, as the noumenon, was inevitably involved. At the moment when the avatar flew backward, Xiao Yang's sitting body couldn't help shaking. His normal face also changed slightly at the moment. Even so, Xiao Yang still calmed his mind, moved his mind, and summoned his avatar back again. The huge Yang dragon body flew in the air and made a low sound of dragon singing in his mouth. Then, when the avatar just stood and stabilized, the Yanlong hit it again, and the avatar was no more than smashed into the lava hell again. After this repetition, after 5 hours, when the first ray of morning light in the sky came, the dragon in front of Xiao Yang finally dispersed, and a thick layer of thunder cloud slowly condensed above the sky. Thunder robbery. The most critical moment to condense the avatar finally came again. Xiao Yang looked at the thunder cloud on the 9 days, and his heart couldn't help rising a sense of pride. He looked at the more and more condensed avatar, and Xiao Yang's mouth also aroused a smile. At the moment, the incarnation has reached the peak level of the 8-star dual saint. It is only 1 step away from the 9-star dual saint. It only needs an opportunity to make a successful breakthrough, and the thunder robbery at the moment seems to be the best opportunity. Ha. Come on, let me see how powerful this thunder robbery is. At the moment, Xiao Yang has already put all his mind and spirit on the avatar in front of him, controlling the avatar. When his body shakes, he immediately hits the sky and rushes towards the thunderstorm. On the 9th day, the thunder cloud seemed to feel Xiao Yang's provocation. After a burst of rumbling thunder, a large thunder and lightning of tens of feet suddenly rushed out of the thunder cloud, just like a thunder dragon coming down to this incarnation. Drink. The avatar also roared up to the sky, and the strength of the right fist was condensed. When the thunder dragon bullied the body, a fist burst out and hit the thunder dragon's head. Burst. There was a roar like a beast in his throat, and the thunder dragon broke into dozens of segments, and then dissipated between the heaven and the earth. Xiao Yang also felt the more and more surging energy in his body, and his heart was even more heroic. He roared again and smiled at the sky. Ha ha ha, why, the power of heaven and earth is only like this. It's really tickling, ha ha ha, come again. This provocation also seemed to completely arouse the anger of the thundercloud. The next moment, after a tumult in the thundercloud, hundreds of thunder were shot down together and bombarded the incarnation of Xiao Yang. At the moment, Xiao Yang finally felt a sense of dignity in his heart. He clenched his fists slowly, and the fighting spirit in his body gathered on his arms. His eyes stared at the 100 thunders, and then his body flashed into the sky again. Xiao Yang knew very well that if he could successfully resist these 100 thunders, his incarnation strength would also enter the 9-star dual saint, but if he could resist with one blow, it would be too whimsical. Therefore, Xiao Yang can try his best to smash a part of the thunder before the 100 thunder gather together. Otherwise, if he really hits down at that time, even he is afraid it will be difficult to resist. Drink. With a violent drink, Xiao Yang controlled his avatar to blow out with a fist and bombarded out with a thunder in front of him. Boom. With a roar, the thunder broke, but Xiao Yang's figure also disappeared. In the next moment, there was another loud bang and another thunder, which slowly dissipated between the heaven and the earth. Unfortunately, although Xiao Yang did his best, after all, the physical strength of this painting at the moment is too weak. Only the strength of the 8-star Dosheng is still too difficult under this 100 thunder robberies. Drink. Give it to me. With all his strength, Xiao Yang punched again and finally, and tried his best to blow to a thunder. Boom. Thunder broke, and Xiao Yang's incarnation also fell uncontrollably to the ground. But at this time, on the horizon, most of the hundreds of thunder still gathered together and turned into a more terrible thunder dragon. The thunder dragon roared to the sky. After a roar, the thunder dragon immediately flashed before Xiao Yang's falling body, and a terrible thunder bombarded Xiao Yang. Click. An invisible crisp sound sounded from Xiao Yang's heart, and Xiao Yang's closed eyes also opened in an instant. At this moment, a magnificent momentum also burst out from Xiao Yang's body, and the thunder that pounded Xiao Yang was broken again. The falling body also stopped at the void in an instant. Xiao Yang looked at the thunder dragon directly above him with a dignified face. Although the avatar broke through at the critical moment and stepped into the rank of 9 stars fighting saints, the thunder dragon in front of him is obviously not something Xiao Yang can easily deal with. At the moment, Xiao Yang finally felt a pressure on his heart. Roar. With a roar, Lei Long's huge body slowly twisted, and then, like a squeezed spring, suddenly bit off at Xiao Yang. Xiao Yang didn't dare to be careless. His body retreated suddenly. His internal fighting spirit also condensed rapidly in his palm. In just a moment, it condensed into a huge ruler. Xiao Yang waved the giant ruler at the moment when his men kept fighting. He created a shield around his body out of thin air. This is Xiao Yang's second largest ruler fighting skill, Liuhe Swimming Body Ruler. Liuhe Swimming Ruler. While Xiao Yang cast the 6 Harmonies Swimming Body Ruler, the Thunder Dragon swallowed it. Under the strong bite, it was more and more difficult for Xiao Yang to cast the 6 Harmonies Swimming Body Ruler. After holding on for a moment, the huge ruler condensed by fighting spirit in his hand finally burst into countless small fighting light points, and the Thunder Dragon's sharp teeth were also bitten off towards the incarnation of Xiao Yang. Hiss. When Xiao Yang was ready to bear a heavy blow to his soul, a hissing sound came out, and the Thunder Dragon that bit hard at him also disappeared at the moment of raising his eyes. Yes, it completely disappeared. A Thunder Dragon hundreds of feet suddenly disappeared between the heaven and earth, and all the breath disappeared, just like everything Xiao Yang had just experienced was just dreaming, which seemed very dreamy. This. Xiao Yang also looked strangely at the empty space above his head. The moment before, there was still a terrible Thunder Dragon. At least until this incarnation, it's scary. Whoosh. A sharp breaking wind sounded. Xiao Yang was warm in his arms. When he looked down, he showed a warm smile at the corners of his mouth. It is Xiao Jin in Xiao Yang's arms at the moment. I'm afraid Xiao Jin can do what he can solve that day in an instant between heaven and earth. Xiao Yang's palm gently caresses Xiao Jin in his arms, and Xiao Jin also plays around Xiao Yang's arm. From time to time, he adds Xiao Yang's fingers with his small tongue, which makes Xiao Yang feel more warm in his heart. Xiao Jin, thank you. Woo, Xiao Yang spit out such a sentence from his mouth, and Xiao Jin seems to understand it. Jin Kankan's small body looks more energetic. Xiao Yang smiled and let him cling to his arm. He looked up at the 9 days. After tossing for a moment, the thunder clouds there finally dissipated. The sky was almost noon. When his mind returned to his body, Xiao Yang opened his eyes slowly, took a long sigh of relief, and raised his eyes to look in front of him. In this instant, all three incarnations appeared in front of Xiao Yang. Avatars gather together. Next, there is the process of integration. This process is much simpler than concise. As long as the fighting spirit in the three avatars can integrate with each other, it will be much simpler. In short, this process needs enough time. When time comes, the avatar will become itself. When the three incarnations merged with each other, at the end of thousands of miles away, two figures finally tracked here. The integration of the three incarnations is just a matter of time, which is quite reassuring for Xiao Yang. But the most important thing at present is that Xiao Yang just felt two not very friendly smells, and the owners of the two smells are coming in the direction of Xiao Yang. 7.5 emperors, Mojai, in order to deal with me, you really can take such a big hand. I'll take it impolitely. Feeling the too strong breath approaching, Xiao Yang smiled at the corners of his mouth, recalled a cold arc, and looked at the two black spots far away in the sky. When the two men were coming, Xiao Yang also glanced at the three incarnations that were still merging. Then with a wave of his big sleeve, the three incarnations instantly turned into three strands of energy and entered Xiao Yang's body. At the fusion stage, the integration of avatars only takes time. It's good if the forces in their bodies can be fully integrated. It doesn't really matter where to integrate. Hehe, you must be the amazing rock owl. Before the person arrived, a heroic laugh that sounded harmless came over, but it turned into a sneer in Xiao Yang's ear. Then Xiao Yang smiled back. If I say I'm not a rock owl, do you believe it? Ha, since it is, why hide it? It's useless. Xiao Yang shrugged and refused to comment. To tell the truth, no one believed it. He was not a rock owl. His name was just an alias. These two old guys didn't believe it. Lord Yang Xiao, you must already know the purpose of our two coming. Near the front, one of the two old men with a scar on his face looked at Xiao Yang and said with a laugh. Xiao Yang raised a sneer at the corner of his mouth, looked at the old man slightly, and smiled slowly. Take people's money and eliminate disasters for others. Since you two have benefited from Mojai, I'm afraid you must kill me today. The two old men smiled in unison and looked at each other. The other old man turned his eyes to Xiao Yang and said with a smile. I'm Fang Zun. This is Wang Qi. I don't know if Your Excellency Yang Xiao knows us both. I don't know. Xiao Yang's face was expressionless and slowly opened his mouth and returned. When they heard the speech, they also frowned slightly. Then Fang Zun smiled again and said. It doesn't matter if we don't know each other. In addition, Brother Wang Qi and I are all 7.5 emperors. Of course, we both know that you have an extremely powerful fighting skill that can make you face 6.5 emperors, but at the moment, it's hard for us to use it. So, Xiao Yang was still plain, as if the man the old man was talking about was not him. He seemed very indifferent to it. Fang Zun heard Xiao Yang's words. A pair of shadowy old eyes also stared at Xiao Yang and said slowly. So, I'm going to give you a decent way to die, which will save us both from wasting our spare strength and fighting with you. You can decide by yourself. Xiao Yang raised his eyebrows. The two old guys really believed in their strength, but then Xiao Yang smiled again, looked up at the other side and sneered. Sorry, my bones are cheap. I'm afraid you have to waste some energy if you want me to die. Otherwise, you can only work here with me. As soon as Xiao Yang said this, the two elders suddenly snorted coldly, looked angrily at Xiao Yang and shouted coldly. Rock Owl, do you really want me to fight you? Xiao Yang sneered and said nothing. With Xiao Yang's control over Qianjuabu, there are only 2 7.5 emperors, and the speed is not as fast as him. It's not easy to show the reincarnation of Buddha anger. Although the Buddha anger reincarnation can only solve one of them, and his loss will be large at that time, but Xiao Yang can't run yet. As long as one of the two people is killed, Mojai will converge a little in the face of himself in the future and save more trouble. Xiao Yang's calm attitude made them angry. Even Chi gave a cold hum and shouted to Xiao Yang again. Rock Owl, since you want me to do it to you, I will show you today. The strength of the 7.5 Emperor is definitely not comparable to that of the 6.5 Emperor. As soon as the voice fell, Fang Zun first moved and rushed to Xiao Yang. Rock Owl, I heard that you have a set of body methods and fighting skills, so let me see if you can be so fierce in my field. Drink. Ice field. Open. With a violent drink, Fang Zun's black robe was broken in an instant. Instead, it was a set of cold armor with ice cones all over. At the moment when the cold armor appeared, A cold breath of frozen heaven and earth also spread from Fang Zun. Fang Zun was thousands of miles around and turned into a cold world, that is, even the lava hell below was frozen by this cold ice. This shows how terrible this ice field is. At the moment when the ice field spread, Xiao Yang also felt the temperature of the space around him, and became cold to the bone at this moment. This terrible low temperature, I'm afraid even if a 9th order warcraft with fire attribute comes, it's difficult to support a few breath. The 7-star and half emperor is really terrible. The changes in the surrounding space also made Xiao Yang's face look slightly changed, but that's all. For Xiao Yang, the most fearless thing is cold ice, because no matter how cold the other party is, it will become useless in front of his strange fire. In an instant, while the cold ice field spread around Xiao Yang's body, Fang Zun's figure also appeared on the right side of Xiao Yang's body. Cold ice palm. With a low cry, Fang Zun's right palm was instantly covered by a layer of ice blue solid ice. When that palm burst out, Xiao Yang's body was already surrounded by a thick layer of ice. Even the actions of Xiao Yang's men became slow in an instant. There was no way to retreat. Xiao Yang's eyes suddenly became fierce. The strange fire in his body surged in an instant, and the ice around him melted rapidly, which also surprised De Fengxuan's eyes. The power of different fire is really terrible. Before it is completely released, it has such power. It is really terrible. But Fang Zun is also a 7-star and a half emperor. No matter whether Xiao Yang has different fire or not, he will not have the slightest fear under his confident strength. When the cold ice fighting spirit in the lower body surges rapidly, the cold ice palm on the right palm is even colder at the moment. Where the cold ice palm passes, even the space is frozen. Xiao Yang uttered a cold hum in his mouth, turned his right palm, and a strange fire burst out in the palm of his hand, turning his whole palm into a strange fire palm. Drink. With a low drink, Xiao Yang and the cold ice palm met fiercely. This palm had no strong fighting skills, but only the terrible smell of different fire. After all, at Xiao Yang's level, ordinary fighting skills can no longer meet their strength requirements. At this time, compared with fighting skills, using their own strength will be more powerful. This point can be seen from the look change on Fang Zun's face when he saw Xiao Yang's palm. Fang Zun dared not relax his palm in his heart. Boom! At the next moment, both of them were mighty hands of ice and fire, and they were fiercely roaring together. A fierce fighting storm swept away from the place where they collided, so that the sky within a radius of thousands of miles was as if washed by water in an instant, and the large clouds that were originally wandering leisurely were turned into nothingness in this instant. The space where the two people met had already collapsed under the two palms and turned into a dark, deep, and endless void. Fang Zun was also shocked by Xiao Yang's momentum. Unexpectedly, Xiao Yang was able to fight against him without defeat. This son is really the dragon among people and the best among the best. If he is really allowed to grow up in the future, I'm afraid there will be a place between heaven and earth. However, it is a pity that they are bound to become enemies today. Even if they want to turn fighting into friendship, it is impossible to turn around. In that case, they must try their best to kill them and never give him a chance to escape. With this in mind, Fang Zun quickly gathered cold ice on the palm of his hand that had not been separated from Xiao Yang. Then his right arm shook and a terrible force erupted. At this moment, Xiao Yang's face changed again. Then, he felt that his body was invaded by a terrible dark force, and his body flew out uncontrollably. At the moment, Xiao Yang's heart is also very dignified. The 7-star and half emperor is really extraordinary. Even if he wants to fight hard, he still seems to be struggling. When the mind moved, the different fire in the body surged in an instant, forcibly wrapped the dark strength that was about to explode, and then it was forcibly swallowed and refined under the terrible burning of the different fire. Xiao Yang's body was shocked and stood in the void. Then he looked up and looked at Fang Zun. In the first round, Xiao Yang suffered a big dark loss, and he should remember this guy. Fang Zun frowned when he saw Xiao Yang in a safe state. Then he felt that his dark strength had been forcibly swallowed up by Xiao Yang's strange fire. This also surprised Fang Zun. This rock owl is really a strange man. Such means are really unique in the world. Of course, on the other hand, Fang Zun's weight to Xiao Yang also soared again at this moment. He also understood that it would be difficult to defeat Xiao Yang. On the horizon, after the two lights of one ice and one fire collided with each other, they were instantly separated, the light dispersed, and the two human shadows also appeared from the light. It was Xiao Yang and Fang Zun. At the moment, Xiao Yang's clothes and robes are slightly damaged. The original momentum of soaring is also a little depressed at the moment, But even so, he still can't hide the fighting spirit in his eyes. Fang Zun really deserves to be a 7.5-star emperor. With Xiao Yang's strength, if he doesn't use those means, he will fight hard. To tell the truth, Xiao Yang is really not his opponent. In half a day, Xiao Yang and Fang Zun didn't know how many rounds they had fought each other, but Fang Zun became more and more fierce after the first attack. Each move and every form completely suppressed Xiao Yang. If Xiao Yang didn't have different fire protection and Tianjueba's advanced body fighting skills, I'm afraid Xiao Yang would have been defeated by Fang Zun's fierce bombardment. At this moment, although Xiao Yang was unwilling, he had to admit that the 7.5-star emperor was really extraordinary. Such strength was definitely not comparable to Li Gan. However, while Xiao Yang felt pressure in his heart, Fang Zun was more shocked than him. With the strength of the 3.5-star emperor, he was able to forcibly fight with his 7.5-star emperor for so long without losing. If such achievements were taken out and put anywhere, I'm afraid no one would believe them. You know, as a 7.5-star emperor, he has transcended the boundary of 6.5-star emperor. He can really be regarded as a high-level and half-emperor. With such strength, those high-level warcraft at the level of half-emperor are unwilling to provoke easily. But Xiao Yang in front of him can be so capable. How can he not shock people from the bottom of his heart? Although Fang Zun was always in a state of suppressing Xiao Yang in the previous battle, he knew better than anyone that it was suppression, but he didn't get any cheap. Xiao Yang's body method is fierce. If he is allowed to be stronger than a star, he is afraid that he will be suppressed at that time. What's more, Xiao Yang's strange fire has a strong suppressive effect on his cold fighting spirit. No matter how many times he makes moves, but every time he is about to hurt Xiao Yang, he is forced to quit because of the terrible strange fire. This is also the place where Fang Zun is most afraid of Xiao Yang. If Xiao Yang didn't have different fire to protect his body, even if his body method was not slow, Fang Zun was sure to take it down. It's a pity. If he knew that Xiao Yang's body method didn't fully unfold at the moment, what would he feel in his heart? Fang Zun stared at Xiao Yang with icy blue eyes, narrowed his eyes slightly, then hugged his fist and smiled at Xiao Yang. Your Excellency Yang Xiao is really a world-renowned genius. No wonder even old things like Li Gan haven't gained half of the benefits with you. Li Gan won't be wronged. Hearing this, Xiao Yang also smiled non-committally. He also hugged Fang Zun and said with a smile, Your Excellency Fang Zun is also good. The strength of the 7.5-star emperor really makes people dare not look down on it. Since I can't defeat you by thunder alone, I have to forgive my injustice. Before the words fell, Fang Zun's eyes also turned to Wang Qi, who had been watching the war in the distance, and smiled. Brother Wang Qi, after watching it for so long, you should also know your ability. It's really difficult to beat him alone. Let's fight together and make a quick decision, or go back to work. Wang Qi, who had a scar on his face, heard Fang Zun's words, and his slightly stiff face was also moved. He saw all the fighting between the two just now. At the moment, he was very surprised at Xiao Yang's real strength, but he didn't expect that in the end, Fang Zun had to let himself do it. Wang Qi's angry eyes also looked at Xiao Yang in an instant. In his eyes, there was a violent surge of the power of fire, turned into an angry lion, and opened that big mouth to Xiao Yang. Your strange fire is very strong, but my fire will not be afraid of you. At this time, Xiao Yang also knew that if the two really started, they would never just compete as pure as before, but really fight. Either Xiao Yang died or the two of them died. This is the only way to choose. Hearing Wang Qi's words, Xiao Yang smiled again and said with a smile, Just right, I play with fire, but I've never lost anyone. Today, I'll have a good fight with you, the 7.5-star emperor. As soon as Xiao Yang's voice fell, a terrible fire suddenly gushed out of Xiao Yang's pores, turning Xiao Yang into a gorgeous fireman in an instant. At the same time, a skyrocketing heat wave also spread rapidly from Xiao Yang's body, and the cold breath around Fang Zun's body shrank again. The look in Fang Zun's eyes changed again at this moment, and it was even more shocked to look at Xiao Yang. This rock owl has hidden his strength. However, for these, Wang Qi seemed to have never felt it. His body as strong as a lion suddenly shook. It was also an extremely hot and domineering flame that burst out in an instant and wrapped his whole body, and the turbulent flame condensed a ferocious and domineering lion head on his face, which looked majestic. Seeing this scene, Fang Zun had to move his mind. The fighting spirit in his body was quickly raised, and the hot air around him was again replaced by a terrible smell of cold ice. All fields are open, extremely cold field. The field is fully open, Xiang Field. At the same time, there was a flash of brilliance under their feet and quickly spread to the whole sky, while Xiao Yang was just shrouded in that field. When the two fields collided, Xiao Yang found that the forces in the two fields of ice and fire were fused together in an extremely strange way, just like Bone's spirit cold fire. Although the strength was far less than that, the new field formed by the integration of the two fields was more powerful than the original. At this point, Xiao Yang couldn't help but pick his eyebrows. These two people have the ability to integrate two diametrically opposite fields. Indeed, they are of the same origin. But then, Xiao Yang smiled softly in his heart. His eyes showed a strange color and looked at the fusion field that brought him in. His lips and teeth opened gently and slowly spit out a word. The field of inflammation, open. The voice fell, but it was like the order of the gods. A terrible wave of strange fire suddenly centered on Xiao Yang and spread like thunder and lightning. In a short instant, the cold ice field and the lion fire field had been completely submerged. On this day, all that could be left was the burning terrible fire. At the moment, Fang Zun and Xiao Yang are also frowning. Unexpectedly, Xiao Yang's strange fire is so powerful that they can regard their fusion field as nothing. It seems that the way to use the field to suppress Xiao Yang is absolutely impossible. Fang Zun and Wang Qi looked at each other and nodded together. Then they flashed and rushed towards Xiao Yang together. Drink. It's very cold. Suddenly, Fang Zun suddenly gave a violent drink in his mouth, and then his right palm suddenly grasped it. The cold ice in his body condensed rapidly. In just a few breaths, it condensed into a cold ice faucet, and the palms he held tightly were wrapped into it. At the same time, Wang Qi on the other side also gave a sudden roar, and the lifelike angry lion on his face rushed out at the moment, turned into a complete lion's head and rushed towards Xiao Yang. But then, Wang Qi suddenly punched out his left fist and fiercely inserted it into the lion's head. Then his souls suddenly stepped on the void and rushed to Xiao Yang again. In an instant, Fang Zun and Wang Qi approached very quickly, and then a dragon and a lion were blasted together by the two people. Ice crystal burning lion beast. The next moment, a roar like a dragon but not a dragon, like a lion but not a lion, came from the two people in an instant, which shocked the world. The space around the two people collapsed under the violent roar, and a huge warcraft with strange appearance slowly stepped out of the void above their heads. The shape of the warcraft is extremely huge. Just by visual inspection, it is afraid that nearly half of Xiao Yang's inflammatory field is covered by his body, and his body is also the fusion field of Fang Zun and Wang Qi. It is hot and mixed with extreme cold and low temperature. Roar. With a roar, the huge beast, after giving an order in the hearts of Fang Zun and Wang Qi at the same time, rushed over to Xiao Yang with the power of heaven. Everywhere he passed, the void space collapsed, and his feet melted with cold ice step by step. It looked like a giant god with extraordinary momentum. A warcraft is a perfect combination of extreme heat and extreme cold. Even in Xiao Yang's view, it feels a kind of magic. There are really all kinds of wonders between heaven and earth. Of course, although the giant beast is strong, it is easier to deal with in Xiao Yang's view at the moment. If Fang Zun and the two were separated to deal with Xiao Yang, it might make him feel a burst of pressure, but at the moment, the two people have repeatedly used these joint fighting skills and combined ice and fire. In this way, there is no threat to Xiao Yang. Although he saw the ice crystal burning lion beast crashing towards him, Xiao Yang seemed to have no intention to avoid. Instead, he looked at the ice crystal burning lion beast with an indifferent face, as if the other party had no lethality. It seems that this angered the ice crystal burning lion beast, which was already towering. Under Xiao Yang's indifferent eyes, he rushed straight into the sky and raised himself to the sky with a roar like a king, so that all warcraft within a radius of 10,000 miles were crawling on the ground at this moment, and his body was directly paralyzed, and he couldn't even tremble with fear. It can be seen that, how terrible is the power of this ice crystal burning lion beast. In an instant, the ice crystal burning lion beast has already arrived in front of Xiao Yang. A big mouth is also swallowed towards Xiao Yang. If it is swallowed by Xiao Yang, I'm afraid it is Xiao Yang today, and he will inevitably be hit hard. While the ice crystal burning lion beast's mouth had shrouded Xiao Yang's head in the darkness, Xiao Yang suddenly lit a dark white flame. While the white flame was burning, the huge mountain-like body of the ice crystal burning lion beast was suddenly fixed in place. Then, Fang Zun and Wang Qi were surprised to see that a thin layer of ice spread rapidly from the mouth of the ice crystal burning lion beast until the whole body was wrapped into it. At this moment, the ice crystal burning lion beast, which was still majestic, was completely transformed into an ice sculpture. At this moment, Fang Zun and Wang Qi were petrified in an instant. If you write badly, maybe you have some water. Please feel free to tell Tux. There will be years of commentary. No, you can only make complaints about it. There are 3 Xiao Yang and a huge ice sculpture standing out of thin air. At the moment, Fang Zun and his 2 people are all staring at the young figure opposite. They can't believe it. In any case, they can't think of how the ice crystal burning lion and beast condensed by his 2 people together can be frozen by Xiao Yang's understatement. Moreover, under Fang Zun's exploration, there was no energy fluctuation in the ice sculpture. Even the slightest connection between them had been completely disconnected from them when the ice crystal burning lion beast was completely frozen. At the moment, the ice crystal burning lion beast has been completely transformed into an ice sculpture. Xiao Yang stared at the ice sculpture in front of him with a cold light in his eyes. The ice crystal burning lion beast was really overbearing. If Xiao Yang had not had a bone spirit cold fire today, I'm afraid it would be really hard to say. Therefore, this party's search for 2 people really caused Xiao Yang's killing heart at the moment. In this battle, Fang Zun will die. The forest white flame on his body slowly faded, Xiao Yang's right palm slowly lifted up, and then he suddenly grasped the ice sculpture of the ice crystal burning lion beast. Click. With a crisp sound, the huge mountain-like ice crystal burning lion beast suddenly broke into ice dregs under Xiao Yang's hand, and then turned into nothingness under Xiao Yang's terrible burning field. So far, Fang Zun's joint fighting skill, ice crystal burning lion beast, was completely destroyed by Xiao Yang, but Xiao Yang, as the target of attack, was unharmed. This time, Xiao Yang won a complete victory. You still don't have to show this joint fighting skill. With your own strength, you may still have a chance to hurt me, but if you insist on your own way, it's useless to do more. When the ice sculpture was broken, Xiao Yang also turned slightly to Fang Zun and said with a faint smile. At this time, Fang Zun and Wang Qi finally woke up and seemed to understand something in the eyes of Wang Qi looking at Xiao Yang. Wang Qi and Fang Zun looked at each other, and then they looked at Xiao Yang. They were always expressionless, and finally showed a dignified color at the moment. The one on you just now is bone spirit cold fire. Only that terrible thing can end our ice crystal burning lion beast at will. For Wang Qi's words, Xiao Yang also smiled and refused to comment. If he dared to light up, he would not be afraid to be recognized by the 2 people, because even if he didn't recognize it, he would have to kill them here. Seeing that Xiao Yang did not deny it, Wang Qi also knew the answer in his heart. His dignified face was more heavy at the moment. Different fires are the same terrible thing for anyone on the Yuanwu continent. After all, everyone knows that different fires in the world have already turned into spirits. Their strength is also strong to an indescribable level of terror. That level is already the real peak on the continent. In this world, the younger generation that can be selected by them are all dragons among people. Even if some real great power ancestors see them, they are all ready to treat each other. At the moment, although there is no spirit of different fire of Xiao Yang, just the name of bone spirit cold fire is enough to move them. Fang Zun's face became heavy after hearing the words bone spirit cold fire. Mojai, this fool, it's not good to provoke anyone, but to provoke such a guy who is favored by God. Wang Qi also knew what Fang Zun meant. Even with a cold hum, he said in a low voice. It's useless to say more at the moment. Instead of complaining about this and that, we'd better use our strength to forcibly kill him here. Otherwise, it's you and me. I'm afraid we can't protect ourselves. Hearing Wang Qi's words, Fang Zun finally came back to his senses. Then he nodded fiercely and said no more. His body suddenly shook and raised his momentum to the peak. Then he nodded to Wang Qi gently. His body flashed and rushed to Xiao Yang. When he rushed forward, Fang Zun's broad palm shook it out of thin air, and then the ring light between his fingers flashed, and a cold ice broadsword appeared in Fang Zun's palm. As soon as the blade shook, a cold air also spread, which also added some forest cold meaning to it, which made people tremble when they saw it. At the moment when the blade trembled, Fang Zun's forward speed soared to an extremely terrible level. In less than a moment, the distance between Fang Zun and Xiao Yang was only a short 100 meters. At this time, the broadsword in his hand was suddenly held high above his head. It was the broadsword of Millennium Ice. Under the brilliance of the hot sun, it was like another round of bright sun hanging on Fang Zun's head. The dazzling light was in Xiao Yang's eyes, which could not help narrowing his eyes. Ice cut. Ice broke thousands of miles, cut. With a roar of rage, although Fang Zun's body continued to rush forward, the sharp blade came at a more rapid speed to Xiao Yang. Xiao Yang stared at the Dao Mang with both eyes, and his face looked colder and colder. When he grasped it out of thin air, different fire gushed out of his hand. In a moment, a huge ruler of different fire was formed rapidly. When the giant ruler stood to his side, Xiao Yang's whole body burned up a terrible fire again. At the same time, the power in the giant ruler of the different fire also soared rapidly. Go! With a low cry in his heart, the huge ruler in Xiao Yang's hand was suddenly waved in the next moment, and a gorgeous fire orn was also shot out from the huge ruler in an instant. Yu Fengshuan's knife orn was blasted together. Boom! An earth-shaking bang suddenly spread between Fang Zun and Xiao Yang, and a terrible fighting storm swept towards the four sides of the sky. In an instant, Fang Zun's 100 miles of void space turned into an endless void. At the center of the explosion, there was a space storm that made all three people feel palpitating. One ice and one fire are in conflict with each other. At the moment, such two strong attributes burst out. Such a momentum is really terrible. On the horizon, before the terrible energy storm completely dissipates, Wang Qi's figure quietly appears on the right side of Xiao Yang's body. At this moment, it is completely transformed into a pair of animal claws. One punch is a fierce blow to Xiao Yang's brain. If this blow is hit, I'm afraid it is based on Xiao Yang's strength, it will also fall on the spot. Wang Qi's move is not cruel. At this time, it seems that some people are unprepared. The burning lion is broken. Suddenly, Wang Qi burst into the sky like a roar of a lion, and the fist tearing the void was already close to Xiao Yang's face. The cold fist wind made the skin on Xiao Yang's face burst with tearing pain, and there was a little blood overflowing from it. Bang! A fist blew out, but a strong figure flew out in an instant. On his chest, a huge fist print also sank like a deep pit. Blood mixed with visceral fragments sprayed out of his mouth and dyed a large piece of clothes red. Then his body hit the mountain below like a meteor. Sneak attack is not a good habit. On the horizon, Xiao Yang's huge left arm slowly changed back to its original shape. However, it was covered with a layer of purple and gold dragon scales. The broad palm turned into a dragon claw at the moment, which looked rather seeping. The figure flying backwards just now was Wang Qi. Long Huang's ancient armor and King Kong's glass body, under Xiao Yang's terrible strength, this punch is just as unbearable even if Wang Qi is a great 7-star and half emperor. What's more, under the situation just now, Xiao Yang was almost unavoidable. Even if he reacted, he was bound to die. Naturally, the defense line in Wang Qi's heart was lowered. At that time, it was the best time for Xiao Yang to attack. Shua! A figure that looked embarrassed flashed out of the mountain stream, and his eyes showed a dignified color. Since his debut, Wang Qi's body has been regarded as a great weapon of his. He has never used weapons to fight with people. He relies on this rock-like body of cultivation. The strength of his body also makes the strong at the same level dare not neglect him when facing him, but never thought that the physical strength he is proud of is so unbearable in front of Xiao Yang today. Xiao Yang looked at Wang Qi's unwilling face and sighed in his heart. He shook his head and didn't bother to explain something to him. Xiao Yang with the blood of the Dragon Phoenix and the ancient armor of the Dragon Phoenix, today's Xiao Yang is comparable to ordinary Taishu ancient dragon people. Naturally, there is no need to say more about his strong body. Taishu ancient dragon's body, in this world where strength is respected, they dare to be the second. I'm afraid no one dares to be the first. Compared with the body, Wang Qi and Xiao Yang really humiliate themselves. However, when Xiao Yang looked at Wang Qiji, Fang Zun's figure behind him quietly appeared for some reason. The broadsword in his hand was also cut off towards Xiao Yang. Alas, that's all you can do. Joint fighting skills can't be beaten. It's a sneak attack. At least it's also a 7-star and a half emperor. Just order. Before the words fell, Xiao Yang's right arm turned into a dragon's arm. The huge ruler of different fire in the dragon's claw was also cut out in an instant and greeted with the cold ice broadsword. Click. With a crisp sound, Xiao Yang's eyes suddenly changed. The crisp sound came from the strange fire giant ruler in his palm. When Wang Qi saw this scene, he couldn't help laughing. Looking at Xiao Yang's huge ruler of different fire about to break up, he sneered and said, "Naive, do you really think that the two of us will fight with you by this means? You also look down on his knife too much. Fang Zun's sword is made of Millennium Shenbing, which is mixed with a lot of Millennium Shenbing spirit. The first knife's ice seal is broken, but it's just a cover. The second knife's ice soul cut is the real strength. Although your fire is good, it's too small to take this knife so easily." Then the next moment, before Wang Qi's voice fell, the huge ruler of different fire in Xiao Yang's palm burst. Around Xiao Yang's body, it was also replaced by the extremely cold solid ice, that is, it was difficult to melt the burning field. Then there was another sound like the strike of gold and iron. Xiao Yang's body suddenly retreated, and his dragon arm was covered with a layer of solid ice. Faintly, a knife mark under the cold ice could be seen, but because of the cold ice, even the blood was completely frozen. If it weren't for the strange fire protection in Xiao Yang's body, I'm afraid it would be more than the appearance of his arm. However, Xiao Yang at the moment has no chance to the cold ice on the dragon arm. Even if those things have extremely cold temperature and different fire, they are difficult to hurt the body. At the moment, his original clear eyes are filled with fire at the moment, but even so, what Fang Zun feels in him is only endless forest cold. The knife he just made seems to have completely annoyed Xiao Yang. Give you a word, ruler destroy. People die. This video will end here.